the Midnight Madness in Tallahassee drew some big time attention. Bud, you were there, right? Were you there at midnight or? Well,
no, I was not there at midnight. With, as you guys might have seen with our new vacation policy for CBS, we have to go ahead and basically, use it or lose it. So I used it. I was in Vegas for 5 days, got to play Shadow Creek. Got to throw in a little plus 900 on Georgia for the Natty, and took some plus 250 for the SEC as well. But no, I was in Tallahassee for the mega camp, and this is something that it's basically a huge satellite camp. They had over 2,500 kids in Tallahassee on Sunday, just a couple days after visits opened up. And the real purpose of this, for the most part, I mean, I'm sure FSU staff gets to evaluate kids and gets to meet kids in person for the first time because they were hired and then the pandemic hit almost instantly. Very few, opportunities they've had to actually meet players in person. But the real benefit of this is they go out and they invite all these college staffs to come to their campus. I think they had 63 schools in all, which is a ton. There were a lot of logos I didn't even recognize, which means FCS, probably some D2. And then a lot of logos I did recognize, right? Minnesota, Indiana, Arizona State, Penn State. I saw Jamie Chadwell there from Coastal Carolina. He says he's down to come on the Cover 3 podcast, by the way. So going to have him on to come chat. Pretty cool offense he runs there at Coastal. And a bunch of other guys I knew. So it was a great opportunity for me to get with some college coaches that I usually would see at the convention or if I stopped by their school. But for the Noles staff, it was an opportunity to interact with all these high school coaches who bring their kids up there. And the high school coaches absolutely loved it because there were more than 100 offers that went out yesterday from the camp. Almost none of them from the Noles, right? But if you're a high school coach, you love that, man, I get to have my players evaluated. They might get loved on a little bit. They might get an offer. They might get told, hey, if you have a nice senior season, you can have an offer. That keeps them motivated throughout the summer. It also means you don't have to spend a ton of money to go on a week-long bus tour throughout the Southeast. I know those are still happening some, but like it's a real big benefit. And it seems like it was a smart move. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of money to spend, obviously, but put the thing on. But that was why they did it. And I think overall from that standpoint, it was a success. And all these college staffs were extremely excited to get down there and see prospects, because they haven't seen them in person in forever.
How different is this mega camp than in pre-COVID? Like, would there have been a Florida State mega camp that would have had 30 FCS group of 5 teams there? Or is this something that we haven't even seen anything like this?
FSU, to my knowledge, has never done a satellite camp of this scale. I don't know that they're going to do this every year. Maybe they will because it was such a success and they pulled it off. Typically what you would have happen is a much smaller school would do this and invite a bunch of, P5s. I think USF had one year with, like Michigan and all those schools coming down there. Remember when Harbaugh was doing all the satellite camp stuff and, people were really up in arms about it. I will say, I don't know if you guys ever been to, Danny, you obviously have, Chip, I assume you have, but for the audience out there, you oftentimes do see a good number of FCS schools that are friendly with the staff. Now, they won't bring the size of the coaching staffs that they brought. I mean, some of these teams brought 7, 8, 9 coaches to this thing. But you will normally see, hey, if, for instance, like Rick Trickett, FSU's old offensive line coach, would always have a couple guys he was tight with in the business who were at FCS schools. And you got to organize it in such a way that you're not bringing in schools that are legitimate competition for you if you're doing your job well on the recruiting trail, right? Like you didn't see Georgia or the Gators or LSU at FSU satellite camp, right? You could say, hey, Penn State and Arizona State. Yeah, but I would argue that if the Noles are doing their job, those are not legitimate competitors for most of the kids in the state of Florida that you would go head to head with them on. But it was definitely bigger than normal. SMU also had a huge one on the same day. You had a lot more schools that recruit Texas strongly at that one. And
they said there was 4,000 players at that one.
I wouldn't doubt it.
I saw an article about it. It's insane.
Dallas is a hell of a lot easier to get to than Tallahassee because nobody actually lives in the Gulf of Mexico. Danny, you've made that drive before.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. What's the because I'm curious to know. I texted you guys this. I had a nephew who was there as a camper, like as a kid who's trying to get there. And he's a rising junior, hasn't played a lot. He's trying to get exposure. He wants to try to, get out there. His goal is to play college football somewhere. And so I was texting with his dad, my brother-in-law, and I was like, how'd it go? Because I'm curious, with 2,500 kids, is there really an evaluation, or is it just getting them on campus so you can have the time with them? Because I'll read you the text from my brother-in-law, and this may be just the case because he's not ranked, he's not a star, he's not, he doesn't have any of that behind him. But he said there were so many kids, they basically had 2 hours divided into 15-minute sessions. Several of the sessions, his son, my nephew, would only get 2 reps. He said, but he still loved it. But, he's like, you didn't exactly get a great chance to evaluate. Is that how it is for everybody? Is it more just to get them on campus and then you already know who's there? Or is there a kid or 2 or 50 that can turn heads by their performance in this mega camp?
So I think he means by reps, like one-on-one reps.
Right.
So the way they broke it down was there were like 2,500 kids. There were actually, there were 4 sessions, right? And within that, they were all broken up by position. And each session lasted, I think, about 2 hours. Like the one-on-ones were kind of a small part of it at the end. And for that, you're not going to get that many reps because there's just not enough field space to, to do one-on-one. It's really at any camp. Like that's always the thing we hear from high school coaches and players and parents is, hey, I didn't get as many one-on-one reps as I wanted. Well, yeah, that's kind of what happens. But they go through drills and get evaluated at any kind of camp like this, throughout. And the coaches are definitely watching all of it. Like the college coaches are not just standing around BSing and waiting for one-on-ones. Like they want to see the one-on-ones, but they're looking for the guys in one-on-ones who popped in the agility drills, right? In the position specific drills, because that's who they're writing down in their notebook or their phone or their tablet or, whatever they want to use. So it is hard to get noticed, I think, by the very best schools if you don't pop and like really, really flash. But the thing is, if you had a good day, you're almost certain to get noticed by somebody because there are, like my friend coaches at Akron, his list that he's writing down is a hell of a lot different than my friend who coaches at Penn State. Like they're not looking at the same type of kids. He's like, hey, what do you know about this kid? What do you know about that kid? It's different because the type of player that can play at that school just looks different. If you're Akron, you're probably looking for guys who, you sort of, it's almost like baseball scouting. You're looking for dudes who are not gonna emerge and get plucked away by Penn State. You want to find guys you can actually sign. So yeah, I think one-on-ones, that's something that pretty much always happens. Like you're not going to get a zillion reps in one-on-ones. I thought the field held together okay, but it's the IM fields over there by College Town.
Right.
So like that's the only really space they have to put on, 4 full-size football fields really.